it's Danny. I'm here for VEDA Day 2. Why does it feel like it's been an eternity already and it's only like day 2? I don't know. For day 2, I wanted to do a book review on something I just recently read. This is going to be kind of off the cuff. I'm not going to do like a true literary analysis. I just wanted to talk about I've been growing a steady interest in neurology, psychology, and why people make the decisions that they make. So I've been reading more philosophical literature, well, not literature, but nonfiction. And I'm never a nonfiction girl. I love fiction. I love literature and classic literature, and that's what I usually read. But I decided a friend recommended. We were having this really weird conversation about what I guess what you would consider cultural mores. What is perception? Ultimately, what creates? How do people collectively decide what things are going to be? Which I think it's called a social more, or cultural more, but I might be wrong on that. So you see how I am about the subject. But in turn, he told me I should read this book, which is Oliver Sacks An Anthropologist on Mars. Now, this book is super old. Well, not super old. It's not like the Iliad or something, but it was published in 1995, and apparently he is a very famed writer. I never heard of him before because, again, this is not really, he's not in my field. But anyhow, it was written in 1995. Very famous writer. Apparently, I found out today that he is dying of cancer, and he is still writing for the New York Times. And that I'm really devastated to hear that because he's a brilliant writer. He's a neurologist, a brain surgeon. No, well, maybe. He never really said what he did he? But he is a doctor. But he has the most liveliest prose, and his writing is brilliant, and I really enjoyed this book. I devoured the book. Like, it took me a while to read because I wanted to absorb every detail. So the book is split up into 7 chapters dealing with 7 different brain disorders like autism, colorblindness, memory, things like that. And it's really, really great. Like prodigies and idiot savants, autism, the blindness, like regular blindness, and it's a really great book, and so I highly recommend it. My favorite, I have an itch on my nose, pardon me. My favorite chapter is really, like, the first chapter is pretty amazing because it kind of caught me off guard about a painter who is colorblind. Like, he lived his life as an artist, got into an accident, I hope this is not a spoiler, but got into an accident and lost his vision. And Sachs goes between explaining his personal relationship with the individuals who are, I guess, centered around each chapter, and actual scientific historical study on the disorder that the specific person is experiencing, and the patient that he's talking to and observing. He also, the last chapter, which is called An Anthropologist on Mars, was about an autistic adult who actually has her PhD. And it's really, like, if you consider there's so much diversity and uniqueness in individuals, it's really amazing to see people experience certain ways of living and how the brain adjusts to deficiencies. And I keep saying deficiencies because they all learn to continue forward. And I think I enjoyed the book so much because the message is optimistic. Ultimately, that, tragedy happens, or you're born with a defect, or you're not perfect, or something happens, but your body, your brain, your life will adjust, and you can still be successful, you could still be balanced, you could still have a happy and fulfilling life. Like the chapter which dealt with prodigies, there was a idiot savant. I don't even feel comfortable saying that phrase, but he is an autistic child named Steven who he has beautiful drawings, and beautifully enough, they have like pictures of like there are three different artists in the book, so they have pictures of their work and their drawings. So the autistic boy who's an artist, he's very, very successful, but he is autistic, and he is, I guess, low functioning autistic, meaning he learned how to speak or began speaking when he was like maybe, or began to get a grasp of language when he was like 10 or 12, or when he was older, like, but he was able to be so successful in selling his work and draw things like landscapes to with brilliance. So, and there's another artist who is, I would say, obsessive of his childhood home in Italy, and he can draw it from memory, even though it's been years since he's last been there. And in the book, when we meet him, it's been years, like 30, 20 years since he was last been to his village that he left when he was like 20 something. But yet he could draw it, paint it, render it by memory, and it's exact. It's a really amazing book. So it's brain disorders or defects with a creative mind, or someone who is creative, or someone who, and creativity to me doesn't necessarily mean that you are drawing or writing poems or stuff like that, but you are forging a new path, a unique path indicative to your subjectivity, your experience. So probably everyone's read this because it came out in 1995, so what is that, like 20 years ago? But it's an amazing book, even for someone like me who is, I would say, a writer, a creative kind of person. I know nothing about psychology. You see me stumbling over the words, but his prose are amazing, and the stories are completely relatable, even if you don't have any experiences with the disorders or the defects that he talks about in the book. So highly, highly, highly recommend Oliver Sacks, An Anthropologist on Mars. Even An Anthropologist on Mars, that phrase is just wonderful. So pick it up if you have the chance, and if you're interested in psychology and, you know, brain disorders, literature, things like that. Okay? So that's the end for VEDA Day 2. I'll see you tomorrow. VEDA, 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 VEDA. Bye.